Open to everyone, Buddhism is more than religion. It is a way of seeing, a way of inquiry, conducted with a rare depth of listening. This listening has a way of changing us. Once we engage this process, what we do in the world, making visual art, making music, anything, is seen and felt through a lens of increasing clarity. If we take this to heart, everything we do may seem Buddhist in design. As the historical Buddha once said, how could it be otherwise? It is said that no one is an island, and yet, even if we were, in a real sense, islands are surrounded by the world and uphold their infinite web of interconnectedness. It can be a world of clarity, of compassion, a field of 1,000 Buddhas, rarely visible, always present. In spiritual practice, there's the idea of practicing, like musicians practice.
Yeah.
We practice every day,
Yeah.
both things,
Oh.
both sides. Is the relationship of that repetition?
I think a skillful practice will be in both of them, and equally skillful. And basically, it comes down to attention, doesn't it?
It does.
You know.
I agree.
So that in fact, people talk about meditation, but we can forget that. It doesn't matter. It's paying attention matters. And so, well, then so Alan would say, but that's what it is. Yes, but then let's call it what it is. Whereas attention is something. Attention is personal. You can't borrow it.
Right.
You can't imitate it. It has to be done.
Yeah.
So I came to that pretty much. It was a realization that I didn't get that from anybody. I just realized that was what I was doing. And someone would say, "Do you do any meditation?" I said, "No." So what do you do? I say, "I just pay attention." And if you do it that way, suddenly meditation assumes its proper place.
Right, just part of
it. It becomes a personal skill.
Each moment offers a choice. see what our ordinary mind filter lets in, or become aware of concurrent moments all around, some in and some out of view. The secret is to relax consciousness while increasing energy. As awareness opens, mindfulness arises spontaneously as experience. Inspired by the consciousness idea called Avalokiteshvara, we can be aware of multiple experiences overlapping in real time, all around. Our awareness is faceted like jewels, facets hiding and revealing themselves in rhythmic complexity, all equally available at all times. We simply need to remain alert as we relax, opening our senses and our felt experience widely. We're using pieces you've written for the original context in a new context with new pieces of, I mean, they're old pieces of art, but with new pairings with art. The music's flexible.
It is.
How does it feel? Is this interesting, or do you think about the original use?
You know, I remember I think I was, at the time I was working with Ravi Shankar. I was kind of his assistant in a way. And I and someone came in to play the tabla with him. It wasn't Alaraka. It was somebody else. Maybe a student who is. And Ravi Shankar listened to him, and he turned to me and said, "Oh, it goes that way too." I thought
Right.
that was interesting. He didn't criticize it at all. He said, "Oh, that's another way to do it."
That's a special mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But he had that. He had a big vision, didn't he?
This art is not about the art. This art is about us. It is about me, and it is about you. This is art that looks back at us and has us look at ourselves. Don't look at me, the statue says. Look back to yourself. Look at yourself as I see you. You yourself are a Buddha. If only you could see that. And if we become connected, if we have a special applied luck and a kind of lightning strikes, it all makes natural sense to us. Where we saw walls, we now see nothing but doorways.
Do you remember when you were very young and and your teacher insisted that you work on your scales? Everybody, did we all do that?
But I enjoyed it, and which is a kind of good luck.
We weren't even, the teacher wasn't even interested in hearing you play a song.
Right,
I just say, let's hear some scales.
right. But
so there we have, it's the two things. It's let's say technique and inspiration.
right.
The two come together.
The idea of unknown teachers includes the idea that the teachings are present not only in each of us, but in the world itself. The teachings are present in the spaciousness that supports the world existing at all. Unknown teachers, waking universal teachings in unnamed beings. The idea has the beauty of swimming in a warm sea. We can't say why it's beautiful. Its beauty exists in completely natural terms.
I realize that as musicians, we have a singular opportunity because we get to we get to act it out in several different ways at once. And I'm not sure that that's always true, but it can be true in the music world.
You mean multiple levels at once?
We see that all the time with musicians. When I see you playing, what I see is I see you doing two things at once. Uh, you're, 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 you're careful about the technique of what you're doing, but you're also careful about the about the emotional content at the same time. So they come together.
They come together.
I think one of our problems is, have you done some teaching? You do.
Yeah.
But conveying that idea that you have, there are several things operating at the same time.
Which is what makes it deep and valuable. But this plays
valuable, and you might even say useful.
Useful. Which, right. I like the idea of music being useful and also useless, both at the same time.
Yeah, it's the most useful, useless thing we can think of.
That's right. In times of confusion, when the world's most treasured values are obscured by forces of greed, consumerism, exploitation, ignorance, and human disempowerment, manifesting as human-made disruptions of climate, famine, war, and disease, more than gentle nudging is needed to restore true values in the physical world. At such times, compassion takes on a fearsome appearance, not to do damage, but to garner sufficient power to purify what seems degraded. Fierce energy is needed to restore consciousness to its own truth. Ancient imagery for the present moment. Your vision's equally wide. I mean, it's always open because you would tell me sometimes you wrote this music, I'm playing it, and you say, okay, you have it now. Now surprise me.
No,
Surprise me. And you every night different. That's what you're looking for. Is
yeah.
you're looking for what you're not looking for. And that's so unusual.
Well, again, it comes down to attention, isn't it? Uh, with if you had a kind of splendid attention that was effortlessly functioning, then you would see everything. But
We can aspire.
Yeah.
There are times. And in a
yeah,
sense,
I
music
think that's
does
the
that.
best thing you can say.
Yeah.
There are times,
Right.
but though if you with certain people like that I grew up with Nadi Boulanger or Ravi Shankar, they were the two most influential people I saw. Not that I learned that much from them, but they had that much to give, you know.
We live in a world filled with signs and symbols. There's a classic teaching tale that tells of an overly pious man walking through a busy modern city like New York. He's walking down 7th Avenue with Madison Square Garden on his right and the Pennsylvania Hotel on his left, 100 eateries and stores all around, people rushing everywhere. He suddenly feels overwhelmed. He looks up and says, "Oh Creator, I've never asked for anything, but once, just this once, please show me a sign. I'll never ask again. Please, a sign." And from all directions at once, yet without any discernible source, he hears a definitive voice saying to him, "So, what's not a sign?" It's up to us to see, to find significance.
Nadia Boulanger. Uh, I'll tell you one quick story because this. Uh, uh, I was one of her many students, but when I first started with her, but the other students managed to push me into the lunch hour. At the lunch hour, she didn't stop to eat. She took the food and she put it on her lap and continued teaching. And if you were studying with her at that moment, the issue was the food going to fall on the floor, or was and somehow or other, and most of the time you were looking up and down because of that. And I finally got out of it when some a new student, even younger than me, came along, and I gave him that job because you couldn't do anything except watch this. She was a woman in her 70s, mind you, and she put the food right on her lap. There wasn't a tray or anything. The plate was there, the counterpoint was there, and she was doing this. What a funny person! But she was a you can learn a lot from that, but you didn't want to spend too much time doing it.
It's very tough. I remember you saying once that she's looking over one of your scores and she said, there's some music. It's like,
Yeah. When I first went to see her, and she asked me to bring my music, I brought tons of music. And she went there, and she could read, she could sight read. She'd look at a page, she looked at maybe 120, 130 pages. And finally she stopped and said, that measure was written by a real composer.
Okay.
Primordial kindness arises as the heart is calm. Perhaps some effort seems needed to reach calm in our own hearts. No effort is needed. Enveloping kindness is revealed, not created. Enter our world, where love is the air, the ground, and everything in between. Music is interesting because you can have a, like many people have a personal encounter with your music,
Mhm.
but you don't know them. And there's some kind of transfer that can happen through music. Is it at the same level? It's an interesting discussion. But for us in the world that we call meditation, just to be simple, in the transmission of
Uh-huh.
Buddhism, there's
Well,
it the personal is indispensable. I agree.
you're getting. I think that's interesting because the the practice of a good musical practice will have all those things in it. And to a certain degree, when I meet a musician for the first time, the thing that I measure most of all is how absorbed they are in the act of what they're doing.
Rings within rings, figures interacting, shapes interlocking, details in relation, rhythms in shapes, counterpoint in image, worlds created by sound, color, radiance.
there's a confusion here too, because uh, uh, a lot of what we do in music, which has to do with practice and has to do with repetition. Uh, uh, but if you got up every day and you did the 24 uh, scales up and down, it doesn't mean you're necessarily achieving anything.
Right.
So it has to be done with the attention.
Right. Totally. It's the same with qigong practice, yoga practice. The
Well, I think the word practice becomes the word of activity here.
yeah.
And the, if we look at the word practice a little more closely, uh, practice becomes a vehicle. It doesn't become the end product. Practice is what you do to get beyond the practices.
The uniqueness of the Buddhist journey is how open it is. We are all invited to listen personally, deeply to heart, or in any manner that is our way. In a moment, our experienced world can be lit so clearly, like lightning. In a single instant, illumination shows the way. In a glimpse, we see and hear beyond our familiar limits. An experience so entirely private that it transcends the confines of self and becomes universal. From this experience, however we are lucky enough to receive it, we live.